Tell me about yourself.
My name is Anthony Calicchio. I'm 20 years old. I'm a finance student at Temple University. I started here in the fall of 2011. Temple was my first choice when I applied to college, and thankfully I got in. That was a really great feeling. When I first came to Temple, I was undeclared. I wanted to do medicine, but I didn't know how I wanted to go about it. I decided I was going to take biology courses and go the biology route with a pre-med backstop. So I basically organized my classes as if I was in pre-med, but I had biology as my declared major. After 2 years of doing that, I realized that it wasn't for me. It was really uneventful for what I thought it was going to be. It didn't excite me as much as I thought it was going to, and I figured if I was going to do something as a career for 40 plus years of my life, I was going to do something that I really enjoyed. This summer of 2013, I shadowed a very close family friend who owns a mortgage company, and through shadowing him, I realized that I had a really strong like for business, and the business models that he taught me and things that I learned through watching him do business really excited me. So that fall, I signed up for business courses here at Temple, and I've been a finance major ever since, and I've been loving it ever since.
Tell me about a significant accomplishment in your life.
As I had stated before, I had traditionally came to Temple undeclared, but I had chose to take a biology course set with a pre-med backing in the hopes that I would graduate, go to medical school, become a doctor. When I was in high school, I had that same mindset. I knew I wanted to be a doctor, I knew I wanted to go to medical school, but I didn't know where I wanted to go, or how I could get my foot in the door, or how I was going to do things to better myself and be more competitive. I had read somewhere that there was a EMT course in our area, and so I inquired about it, and I found that it was 10 minutes from my house. So I went, I filled out the paperwork, I paid my dues, I got the course materials, and I got my class schedule. My class schedule was every Tuesday and Thursday for 4 months from 6 to 9 p.m. I had to be at the fire building. I had to take notes, take exams, take practical exams, which is where we had hands-on with a dummy patient, and we had to do one of numerous things, whether it was fix a broken bone, take a blood pressure, things of that nature. So for the 4 months, it was my responsibility as a junior in high school to not only be prepared, but to be on time, and then remember all of this information for when I finished. So I took as detailed notes as possible, and for every exam that we had, I got perfect scores, which every time I got a perfect score, I felt so accomplished. I felt so excited. At the end of the 4 months, we had a final exam, which is where it was an accumulation of all the material, and then a practical exam, which incorporated all of the material but into like a live action simulation. So we went to Bethlehem, and there's a large structure there that we went into. They had these desks laid out for us. We sat down, we took our written exam, we had 2 hours to take that, and then we waited, and at the end of the 2 hours we were paired up, and we were sent into one of numerous stations, and each station had a different scenario, but it was very in-depth. Me and my partner, we went to our station, we waited for our instructor, and they told us that we had a trauma victim, so that was the hardest one, in our opinion, as students. But I was more than confident in my ability, and at the end of the practical exam, we were told to step out and go take seats in the area where we took the exam, and we waited anxiously to hear our results. And so we waited about a half an hour for the instructors to collaborate, and we found out that everybody had passed, and at that moment I was so excited, and I couldn't wait to finally get my foot in the door as far as being on an ambulance and experiencing real life people, their problems, whether they're bleeding from somewhere or broken bones, trying to help people and work on my bedside manner to become a doctor.
Tell about something you have learned in class.
Throughout the course of the class, we learned a bunch of valuable information, but the topics that I'm going to take away the most are the ones on culture and leadership. when I get into the business community, I'm gonna do whatever I can to learn as much as I can as to how businesses work, how they run, the do's and don'ts, proper etiquette. Sometimes you don't really learn things by book, you learn them on the field. And once I have all that information, I'm really going to try my best to incorporate it all into my own business one day. That my end goal is to really own my own company and be as successful or more successful, hopefully, than my parents are already. With that comes in leadership. You need to be a good leader to own your own business, regardless of what it is, because if you're not going to be a good leader, you're not going to have people that are going to want to work for you, and ultimately you're going to fail. My parents have proven that great leadership leads to great success. They have demonstrated servant leadership. They idealized influence, the other topics of transformational leadership. They've literally driven home what it means to be a great leader, and they've been my role models for that. With that, they've shown me that you need to remove barriers for people to be successful. Not only your employees, but yourself too, because if your employees are working as hard as they can and they're being 100% successful, that means that you're being 100% successful. You're not missing out on any opportunities, and that's important. With that comes culture. They've proven that their values and beliefs that they've instilled in the business and also in their employees has led to their ultimate success above their competitors. That's another thing I wish to drive into my company. I had read an article where these head CEOs would leave. They would give a notice, but it would be really short notice, and they wouldn't really have a succession plan. And they would kind of leave the company to fend for themselves. And it showed in the stocks. Their stock price went down, the value of the company dropped, and I don't believe in that. I don't think that was a good move on the CEOs. I don't understand why they did it. It didn't really go into detail in the Wall Street Journal article. However, from that, I realized that in my company, when I own my own company, I'm going to have a strong culture where my employees trust me and they know that I won't leave the company to fend for itself. I'll have a proper succession plan. I'll have the proper people in place to take over when I'm not able to. And ultimately, when I retire, I can leave the company in good hands, knowing that everyone that has worked so hard to make the company what it is hasn't done so in vain.